Um, and so yeah, I guess we'll just start. So hello everyone, and welcome to this community call. We have written up shuffle roadmap here in the middle, which is where we'll start. And it's going to be all about creators this time around. We haven't done one of these for a few months now. I think we did the last one back in late May. But now that summer is over, we intend to start doing this more and more, and not kind of like keep it once a quarter, but instead keep it kind of more regular in general, and try to update everyone on what's going on with Shuffle, and how we can work together to make it grow. First of all, let me introduce myself. After all of that, I'm Frederick. I'm the CEO and founder of Shuffle. And with me, you might see my colleague here in the top right corner on the beach. That is Binu. Binu, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm the business developer at Shuffle, all things business, and you'll see me here and there.
Selling yourself a little short, but he knows a lot of the security aspects as well in this, and he's been a part of kind of the creator aspect of Shuffle, and has been a part of the journey for a long time now, and he's joined our team a few around the time of that last creator call, actually back in May. Yeah, could you go to the next slide?
Sure.
So where we'll start is a lot of the same things we've talked about before, because we've had kind of these problems about how to deliver the best value immediately to people who start using Shuffle. And since we are open source, we are focused on accessibility, and we do get quite a few people signing up every week who are trying it out, and it's reaching around 100 downloads a week and around 40 signups on our website per week. So it's getting to a number that is actually substantial, which means we need to have a scalable way of helping onboard security enthusiasts who are looking to solve some of their automation problems. And that's all what we'll be talking about today. We'll be focused on the creator side of that, and how creators will help with this, how we will help creators, and how everything they're building will lead back to more users who will have an easier time using Shuffle over time, which means more secure environments globally, if it's done well, which is what we'll be trying to explain better and better over time. So the first one you see here about onboarding, and the last one for use cases are the main pieces that we'll be focusing on. Next slide, please. A little bit about our internal processes as well, because here at Shuffle we do have a team that is globally ran, and we have some people in the US, we have some people in Africa, I'm in Europe, we have people over in Asia as well, in India, and we have customers kind of on every continent at this point. And so we have some internal focuses that we would like to help highlight, because we are about the community. We are trying to help everyone understand how we build this and how you can contribute. And I think you deserve to listen in and understand more of what we are doing as well internally. And a big part of what we do right now, that is how we are landing customers and how we are staying afloat and being able to hire new people, is that we are doing very good proof of concepts. And this is something we've focused very heavily on, as we've kind of grown out of the stages of me working on it by myself a year ago to like a team of about 10, 12 people now. I'm trying to figure out the exact numbers there, but they are not exact. It's with internal people as well as consultants that we work with. And a big part of kind of what we are going through now is a change in how we work, from a lot of meetings and updating everyone and everything, to making sure we are documenting everything. And this is also to help with information flow for everyone. So we are trying to make documentation available to everyone at all times for pretty much any answer, which is also why we are by example built that Discord bot, which is helping out with it, answering questions, which can be searched in, and it searches our documentation. We keep adding more and more documentation from our internal documentation and the external one continually. And yeah, it's a big focus on documentation. And the third step here kind of goes into how does that lead to better support for everyone as well? Because we do now have multiple channels for support. You might have seen that little shuffle icon in the bottom right corner of your screen within Shuffle. That is a way to reach our team, and most of our team is on that. So you may, if you're lucky, you'll reach someone within a few minutes. Otherwise, we'll usually answer almost any time within like an hour or so. And for customers, we do also have extra SLAs and everything that you might need to actually help them out properly. So the third part here that we have set up as well, just to do the 3C essentially, is we've set up a Google group as well to have better processes internally for handling support emails, because we tend to get a lot of those as well with people asking questions, which again lead to good documentation. Next, thank you. And now it's the external focus, and this is like, how do we work with you on all of this that we have talked about here? And this is entirely on the creators. And I know we have some of them on this call right here. You might see it in the recording. Some of those on here are verified creators, and we do also have quite a few that are not verified yet. Which is something that we'll get into here, but the whole focus is on figuring out how to work with creators on creating the best workflows that are easy to access and easy to use for everyone within our ecosystem. And we have built a couple of new tools for this, which is what we'll show today as well. As to highlight what our team has been working on over time, because you might not see too much within the workflow UI itself. We help with a little bit here and there, but it's the entire platform around it that is our focus. Next slide, please. So from all that, what we have to keep doing, which we've talked about for a long time, is just keep making it easier. And that's what we'll get into right now. So first of all, we've added a new onboarding system into Shuffle. And this is so that we can ask smart questions that lead us to good answers for what we can help with. And so this is how we will understand way better what apps people are using, what workflows are interesting, so that we can build better recommendation systems and help out with that, whether you are on the open source version or our cloud version. Those should be exactly the same for this. So here on the left side, you kind of see one of the steps that are related to it. It is all about figuring out what apps are in use, and so we focus on a couple of them, just on SIM, endpoint, Intel, and email right now, because those are the focus of most of the use cases. But also we will keep adding to that and add basically all 8 of the categories, like app categories that we do have in there. And on the right here, you see one of the new systems that we have recently built out that will become public within the next month sometime. And it's focused on use case building and how to build good workflows that can be automatically stitched together within Shuffle. So go to the next slide, please. Here we go. So this is kind of what we're looking at. We are looking at ways to make it super easy to build workflows by having our creators build the workflows themselves. So on the left side here, it says when I get an email, and that is basically a trigger for when an email comes in through Gmail. It should trigger something. And how this has been built out is that there's a standardized way to build these kinds of workflows. And so for different systems, it will be easy to kind of swap between the different tools. So for those not familiar with subflows and all those kinds of systems that we have, there are ways that we can stitch together or make workflows fit together naturally, whether or not they are entirely built in the way that they need to work that way. So we try to understand what the data is about and then send it into the next step. So in this case, it says when I get an email, enrich the data, then create a ticket. So it's a flow of you just click a drop down menu, you choose what you want it to do, and Shuffle builds it together if we have the right information to be able to do it. And so far, this is in the infancy stages, but we are already having good success with like the workflow you can see here on the screen on the right side has been generated through the system, and it works for certain tools so far. So we are trying to generalize it even more, but it is working for certain tools, and it does not require you to set up a lot. We are making this easier and easier. Next slide, please. So here's one of the reasons that this is getting easier and easier, and this is something we should have had a long time ago. But in short, this is related to authentication. It's not about just Microsoft Graph or Outlook Office 365, as you can see here. It's about every system that, by example, uses OAuth to authenticate. And so we built a system around that where it's a one-click sign-in, again, which it should have been for a long time. And we are building this we have it for like 10 systems so far or something, which are extremely easy to set up then. So we are becoming verified creators on their platforms again, like verified app developers and partners to be able to support this kind of development and handle customer or your user information in a good way within Shuffle. Essentially, a one-click sign up to be able to use something. And so this, together with those automatically generated workflows, are very, very good ways of showing how workflows can be built extremely quickly and for us to solve problems on the fly for you without needing to know how to automate. But our creators will still need to know how to automate, and that's what we'll be getting to very soon here as well. So one more thing that has been added in recent time has been documentation or statistics for usage within the platform, because we have the search bar at the top of the screen, which has also been added to the open source version of Shuffle now. We do get around 200,000 searches per month, which leads to a certain amount of clicks, certain amount of conversions, and those on screen here are not representative of anything real, but we do have this UI available already, um, uh, where you can see that information. And this is meant as a way for us to track how apps and workflows within Shuffle are being used, for us to again talk about this verified creator economy that we are trying to build out together with our creators, and for us to focus entirely on click-through rates and use that as a good metric for understanding how workflows and apps are being used. We are also doing kind of the opposite, not just tracking things that are happening, but also tracking, by example, apps that we are missing. So in certain cases, there might be tools that might be missing entirely, and so that is statistics that we will share with verified creators to make it easier for them to also build more apps and workflows within Shuffle, as well as other content that kind of lead together with that. Next slide, please. And here is kind of where we're at in the creator phases, essentially. So at the start of this year, we had our first call like this. I think it was maybe back in February, which is the phase we're still in. We're kind of in this test phase of making everything work. But where we are going now, we are soon in October, leading us into Q4. It should say Q4 2022 in the middle there. That's our typo. But here on the left side, we have kind of figured out how the systems are working now. We have figured out all the tracking, and we are starting to understand how earnings should work through the system based on what our creators have built. And we have made some of our creators into verified creators now, which is something that Bine will get into shortly. For phase 2 here, which is what we're getting into, that is when we will keep extending this system to have better tracking of basically everything that those verified creators or creators in general are actually doing for the Shuffle ecosystem. And this is entirely, again, to lead back to how do we do revenue sharing and how can you earn a good amount from helping Shuffle out. And Q4 will basically be the verification process. And from Q1 next year is when we will immediately turn it on and basically start actually paying out. Over to you, Bine.
Thanks. So the Shuffle Verified Creator Program it's essentially an initiative that's designed to support our content creators in various aspects through coaching, recognition, and resources. It's to incentivize those creators who are passionate about security automation. And what's good is that we'll be keeping up with documentation as we develop the program further, and we'll, just keep checking with us every week as we update some of those content so you can get a little bit more information on it. Now, becoming a verified creator is going to be a unique process. Basically, it's, again, incentivizing the apps, the workflows, and digital content that's being created. And I'll get into that a little bit more. But it'll push the boundaries of the knowledge and perspectives that allow folks and users to kind of start easily and get into the process of building workflows, creating new apps, and essentially just starting the process of automation. Building apps and public workflows. As you see on the right, there's several processes that could be used to create workflows and apps, and they're basically automatically prioritized through those searches. So you could find essentially an easy start to what you're trying to get into. And oops, wrong one. Also to emphasize, it's not only apps and workflows, it's digital content. So things like blogs, articles, and videos are a great way to add to the knowledge base and to allow users to kind of get a better idea of how to build workflows, how to use the apps that creators create. So it may not be just one use case, it might be several use cases, and people get an idea once they either read it or visually see content that's being created by our creators. And so, just to kind of emphasize, it's not just apps and workflows, it's all types of media that we get to put, and it builds to our ecosystem. You may have also noticed that there's a hire button that is on the profiles, and it's basically to kind of it's an experiment that we're testing out to see if there's other ways that we could help the users get started. And there are a number of ways that we could do that with building or upgrading workflows, creating new systems and processes, even training on how to use Shuffle. But essentially, we want to give a way for our creators to become certified consultants in a way, and help automate and help users automate. And I'll pass it to you, Frederick. Everybody can hear me?
I was muted. We are trying to approach this in a data-driven way. We are not even trying. We are taking a data-driven way to approach this. So we are focused very heavily on understanding what our users are doing during onboarding and while they are within Shuffle, without actually seeing what you are doing, right? Without looking at the actual data of what's being created. So that is more of a looking at the statistics of the around the workflows that are being built. And we have a lot being built every day at this point, which is very interesting. Along with, you can see some event tracking here on the right side, and that is just for a single week. And on the bottom right there, it says app type tracking, and that is like what type of categories are being selected for these apps that are most interesting. And we can very clearly see sim is way below the others, which was a very big surprise to me. But that means that like there's more of a need or immediate testing need, at least, for EDR over SIM, for us to create better versions of those tools before creating better versions of other tools like the SIM and or different SIM tools essentially. And this is information that for those verified creators we will start sharing because it leads to better information that helps you make better decisions on what you might be interested in building out next. And you can see on the left side here, one of those examples is we are open source, and so are a lot of the tools that we are building out and working with. And so in the top results for last 3 months there, it's actually just for a month or so, but the top one says was and that is not really a surprise because that is where most of the content has been built out so far, and both internally and otherwise, we know that a lot of users have come through that through being interested in it. But the second one starts to become an interesting one because that one says elastic security, and that is one where we're not entirely sure why it's that high. But one of the reasons was, or one of the ways that we kind of figured it out was that it already had a high priority within our system, like Bina talked about earlier. There's like this priority system based on the information you add to those workflows and apps, so that it actually showed up early. Plus, it was perceived as to be Elasticsearch and not just Elastic Cloud, which is what it's supposed to be. And so these are kind of the types of information that is very interesting as to understand what type of workflows are probably most interesting to people. Like, what are the things they want to automate first, and whether that is related to EDR tools or SIM or like enrichment pieces. All of these normal use cases, essentially, that most users that get into Shuffle start with. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so now, just to end this, we are not going to go for way too long here. Our development plans for the next few months are very heavily focused on making sure that Shuffle kind of can handle the load that's happening, because we are growing exponentially now just by the sheer force of people using the platform and sharing it with people. And we can especially see this in terms of how much is being automated and what types of use cases that are interesting to everyone. And in certain cases, we find people who are not security related as well, who find our platform, who start using it because it's available and it works. So it's used for IT work as well. Now, related to all of this, we are also starting to branch out into more regions. Right now, we just have one region in Europe, which everything is saved on. And the next one we will be releasing will be one in Canada, due to a need there from customers of ours. And we will focus very highly on stability, because we've had some problems with that over time. And our team is getting really good at actually finding and solving those problems now, so that the availability is extremely high. And right now we are at around 99.99%. We are not doing the 5 nines, but we are doing the 4. And we're trying to stay around that mark at the very least. Maybe down the road we'll look at something more, but I'm not going to promise anything right now. Second point here I didn't really talk about has to do with how to find Shuffle and how to build out tooling that is important. And as contributors to Shuffle, this is not necessarily that important, but these are our internal development plans for how to help make apps, workflows, and the interactions between the workflows, interactions between apps, use cases for those, how creators are matching with them, where to find the documentation. All of this is very important. And we need to build out the right tooling to put on Google, by example, like so Google can find it, Bing can find it, all these search engines can find it. Otherwise, we don't keep naturally growing, essentially. And right now, this has been neglected for too long. So it's a focus point that we'll have while building out these creator pieces, and it will help everything kind of grow organically if done well. Next one, please. So with that, we are kind of getting into the goals of Q3 and Q4, and the goals are not very metric heavy. They are more of what we want to have achieved. And let's just start from the left side where we talk about the use cases. And keep in mind, use cases of workflows are not the exact same. A use case can be it can be with any tool, while workflows are typically with very specific tools, by example. So when we talk about like phishing as a use case, by example, that could be with Outlook or it could be with other email systems. But in the workflow, it would be very specific. And right now, those use cases don't actually have any, or a lot of them don't have enough information or workflows attached to them. And here on the right side, right next to it, where it says enrichment and then choose a trigger, choose an end action, that is the system that we will build it out with in the future to make it easier for people who are coming on board to use Shuffle. And we are starting to get those workflows that are absolutely necessary to make that system work. We are starting to get enough of them to where we can hopefully soon release it, as we will have enough workflows to not make it just seem like a system that doesn't do anything. Because the reality is that it actually does nothing if we don't make it, if we don't have enough workflows that are helping out with it. And we are focused very heavily on just email to ticket to start with, and then we will do EDR, and then we will do SIMs, and add enrichment in the middle for that. So the second part here comes into learning about Shuffle, because that's kind of the next step. We see a lot of the same questions coming up over and over, and we point people to the documentation. So we get actually less and less of the same simple questions because the product gets better, documentation gets better, everything kind of gets better, slow and steady over time. And we're trying to just be faster about that, and we're trying to build out a proper syllabus that will help out understanding what the pieces are that you should know if you want to do X or Y. Like if you want to build a workflow that is a trigger that matches right here, how or what do you need to know to be able to do that? And could you just jump straight into it? Probably. But would you then build something very good? I'm not so sure. And that is kind of where we are understanding or trying to understand better what everyone wants and need, essentially. Um, as we said on slide 2 or 3 as well, documentation is heavily prioritized, and we are building out documentation or writing documentation together with customers, together with users for different tools that are necessary, which is also specific to Shuffle, not just for that tool itself. It's to make it very specific, along with workflows for those that will help more people automate more. Fourth point gets to searching, and searching has been a like main point within Shuffle for the last, I want to say, half year or so as well. And now it's paying dividends. We can very clearly see it because there are so many more searches happening every month, and more people are just finding what they need themselves, and so we don't need to support that support, essentially. But we are also there as support, as free support, essentially, for pretty much anyone who has any problem with the automation that they are trying to do, especially if they are stuck or there is a platform bug, which happens once in a while. And the last piece that comes to it is something that our verified creators will hopefully be very happy about, which comes to basically how earnings are calculated and how your creator profile can be modified over time. And this is something we just chose to not focus on because it takes so much development time to make it a fully automated process. So for the first or for the next 4 months while we are testing this out, we will be doing this part manually, basically around earnings and around editing profiles. And by Q1 next year, we should have a new entirely viewable kind of part for creators that is private to them to understand what their earnings are and or like to also change their profile. Last but not least, we're also working on partnerships, and we have, I think, I'm not sure how many we have specifically on the reseller side, by example, but I do know that we are working on 4 simultaneous app kind of partnerships related to apps right now. And we already have 2 of those. And that will keep growing as well as we figure out faster and faster ways to work with other companies to build that out. So now the last thing to say is that we have released a new version of the creators page, which talks about this ecosystem, and we do have documentation for it. So everything we've talked about now, at least most of it, has been released, and if it hasn't, then it will be released over the next few weeks to help you better understand what we are doing for creators and how creators can actually do everything we've tried to talk about for such a long time, that I'm super excited to actually get started with and launch properly here today and later on as well, especially from the 1st of January next year, kind of getting into it properly and starting to share parts of our revenue. That is the exciting part of this. And yeah, that's kind of it. And I was wondering from those who are in here whether you might have any questions for this. But otherwise, there is this link for /creators that kind of has a lot of it on it, and we have written up a new documentation page which is also available. So, any questions?
Super exciting. I'm not much of a creator, more of an advisor, but love to see it, man. It's great.
We'll talk about it more in depth later. Taylor?
No questions on my end. I think you guys are on the right track here, and I'm excited to see how you guys putting together something for creators to easily provide content will then also help you guys grow in the long run as well. I think it'll be a great kind of dual partnership between creators and Shuffle themselves that ultimately lead to the mass public getting more and more out of Shuffle than what they could have.
Thanks for that. It's a nice comment.
I'm sure there will be much more questions on my end. You know how I like to bug you pretty often.
We'll write some documentation so you don't have to.
Yeah.
No, please send it our way, and you are a part of that the existing verified creators. So I hope you come with some smart questions over time that are going to help us in the right direction for sure. And I'll keep bugging you as well for the same for sure.
Love it. Yeah, love it.
Okay.
Good deal.
Anything else? Okay, I'll stop the recording right there.